Hello, my name is Janet Barker and I would like to welcome you to my ePortfolio, the graduating project for the Master of Educational Technology, or MET, program at UBC. The MET program homepage states that skilled educators create rich learning environments where students are introduced to new ideas, develop new skills, and expand their perspectives. The informed use of technology can engage students in new experiences and create a community of learners across geographical boundaries. The MET program has more than lived up to that promise, as this ePortfolio will show. The purpose of this ePortfolio is to meet the requirements for both the MET program and the British Columbia Teacher Qualification Service. It is designed to do this by showcasing examples of my work, referred to as artifacts, and by demonstrating learning through reflections on these artifacts. I will use a metaphor to draw these artifacts and reflections into a cohesive whole. This guided tour will provide you with some background on the development of that metaphor and on the structure of this ePortfolio. The first stage in creating an ePortfolio is reflection. I started with a general reflection, looking back on the program as a whole and on the research, activities, and aha moments that stood out the most. According to Jenny Moon, when we reflect on learning, we upgrade learning, going back to ideas and reprocessing them and integrating them into current understandings. As I personally used this process to reflect on what I learned during the MET program, the first idea that came to mind, and the one that I kept coming back to from different perspectives, was constructivism. I will go into more detail about constructivism in a moment, but I feel it is important to mention it here because it was a key factor in the second stage of creating my ePortfolio, choosing a metaphor. A metaphor provides a framework or structure around which to build connections and synthesize learning. I was struggling to find a metaphor that I could relate to and that I felt really identified the changes within myself and my teaching throughout the program. My thoughts kept returning to constructivism, how I was using it in class, and an analogy I use with my students on a regular basis. You don't build muscles watching someone else work out. I was not sure how to expand the analogy into a working metaphor, so I decided to continue on to some more specific reflections, keeping the analogy in mind. As I continued on with my reflections, other themes began to emerge. I decided to create a concept map to see how the themes related and how I could connect them to my analogy. As I worked on the concept map, I realized that my building muscles analogy was too narrow to include everything I wanted. As soon as I moved it to the side and made it part of the circle instead of the center, everything fell into place. Getting fit seemed to sum up the components of the concept map, and the metaphor was born. The basic layout of the concept map is meant to be circular, with the key blue elements forming the circumference and getting fit the center. I have tried to design my ePortfolio with that circular concept in mind. Each topic flows into the next, and like both learning and fitness, the circle never really ends. While I do intend there to be a flow between the components of the metaphor, each area is written as an independent reflection, and you can really enter the circle anywhere. You can choose to use the drop-down menu to jump to any component of my metaphor, or you can follow the circumference around those items that would have been highlighted blue on the original concept map, the circumference of the circle. You can follow the circumference around using the previous page or the next page. The next page takes you to the next item that would have been highlighted blue on the concept map, and the previous page takes you to the previous one. Or jump back to the top of the page and move to wherever you would like within the metaphor. As I developed my metaphor and ePortfolio, two professional and two personal themes really rose to the surface. The first theme was the importance of learning theories to guide the instructional strategies that we use in our teaching practice. This theme is covered within the training style section of my metaphor. As I reflected back over the program, I identified the influence of Vygotsky's 4 basic principles on my own personal learning theory. Until I did this reflection, I had not realized how influential my research into Vygotsky had been. This led me into the area of constructivism. At the start of the MET program, I was very skeptical that constructivism could be used effectively in teaching mathematics. My ePortfolio outlines my personal experience with constructivism, my increasing use of it in the classroom, and documents some of the research I have done into constructivism and mathematics. This is covered in the Building Your Own Muscles portion of the metaphor. A greatly improved sense of technological self-efficacy is one of the areas of personal growth. I did not start the program because I was a natural technophile. Rather, I started the MET program because I was floundering in the sea of technological options and wanted some guidance. I leave the program with confidence in my ability to choose and implement technology and the practical skills I need to meet the educational technology challenge head on. Another area of personal growth was in developing my non-linear thinking skills. My love of all things orderly and my somewhat overly literal interpretation of the world around me led me into a degree in mathematics. Learning the skills to analyze, synthesize, and read between the lines, or outside the box, has been a challenge. It will never be a skill that comes easily to me, but I am pleased with the progress that I have made in this area. The equipment section of my metaphor outlines my understanding of how and when to use educational technology and its role in education. An outline of how I plan to continue learning and growing as an educator is found in the use it or lose it component of the metaphor. Within the hectic schedule of daily life, there's rarely opportunity to reflect. The reflection that I have engaged in as I have created this e-portfolio has been phenomenally helpful to me in creating connections and giving me the opportunity to step back and see the bigger picture. Creating this e-portfolio has allowed me to make the learning more meaningful as I have engaged in review, metacognition, and collaboration. I am very grateful to the input and suggestions from my peers that have helped me create a better final product and helped me to recognize the value of e-portfolios. There have been some minor additions and alterations to the original plan developed in this concept map, but I have often had the concept map open and used it as a reference and a guide as I built and wrote this e-portfolio. The first major assignment I completed in the MET program was the concept map for ETEC 512, and it seems very fitting that I use this skill to help guide the creation of my final major project for the program. In conclusion, I'd just like to say that creating this e-portfolio has been an incredibly valuable learning experience. Thank you very much for taking the time to watch the guided tour and for reviewing my e-portfolio.